I never thought my life would become a story I could barely understand myself. My name is Suzanne, and this is the truth I have hidden deep inside me for years. It is a story filled with love, confusion, loyalty, secrets, and choices that still echo in my heart. Before everything changed, I was a simple young woman working as a secretary in the National Financial Investigation Bureau of a small Central African country. I was 24, full of dreams, full of plans, and full of certainty about my future. I had a boyfriend named Samuel. We had been together for 3 beautiful years, and we were preparing to marry in 4 months. I had my wedding dress chosen. My family adored him. My world seemed safe and clear. Then I met my boss, Director Bodrick, and now he was the leader of the entire agency, a man of authority and calm power. People respected him. People feared him. He was older, maybe in his late 40s, but he carried himself with such strength and confidence that his age felt like an advantage rather than a weakness. On my first day he simply said, "Welcome, Suzanne. I hope you will enjoy working with us." Then he returned to his office and closed the door. I did not know that this man, who barely noticed me, would soon become the center of a secret I could never speak aloud. 81st, our relationship was completely professional. I typed reports, answered calls, organized meetings, and accompanied him to important events. He was polite, distant, and always in control, but slowly, something changed. He began to pay attention to me in small ways. He noticed when I skipped lunch. He noticed when I stayed too late. He noticed when something was bothering me even before I said anything. One evening I was finishing a report when he stepped out of his office. He said softly, "You work too hard, Suzanne. Go home and rest." I laughed and replied, "My wedding is coming soon. I need the extra hours. Weddings are expensive." He looked at me long and carefully, with an expression I could not understand. Then he nodded and walked away, but his eyes stayed in my mind all night. A few days later he asked me to come into his office. I thought it was about official work, but it was something much more personal. He said, "Suzanne, I know this is unusual, but I want you to know I care about you. If you ever need anything, if you ever feel stressed or alone, you can come to me. I will be there for you." My heart jumped. I felt confused, nervous, and strangely comforted. I thanked him politely and left the office, but I carried his words home with me like a weight. From that moment, things began to shift. Bodrick started checking on me more often. He asked about my family, my dreams, and my relationship with Samuel. He remembered small details I did not expect him to remember. He sent me home with food when I worked late. He helped me when I struggled with documents. He made sure I was safe when it rained heavily outside. I felt protected in a way I had never felt before. Protected and seen, and that scared me. One stormy night everything fell apart. I had been arguing with Samuel about wedding expenses, and I felt overwhelmed. I tried to walk, but I broke down and cried quietly at my desk. Bodrick saw me through the glass window of his office and called me in. He spoke gently. "Suzanne, you do not have to be strong every moment. What is hurting you?" I told him everything. The stress. The fear of failing. The pressure from both families. The arguments. The loneliness. He took my hand and said, "You are not alone. I will help you carry what is too heavy for you." That night I stayed in his office for hours. We talked. We shared. We looked at each other differently. Something between us changed permanently. I crossed the line I never believed I would cross. From then on, Bodrick made me his secret wife in every way except legally. He cared for me deeply, almost obsessively. He made sure my mother's medicine was paid for. He solved problems I did not even tell my family about. He was always present, always protective, always watching over me, but no one knew. Outside the agency, I continued planning my wedding with Samuel. I smiled in photos. I visited his family. But inside, my heart was split in two. One part belonged to the man I loved and planned to marry, the other part belonged to the powerful man who held me in silence. Sometimes Bodrick looked at me with the intensity of a man who knew exactly what he meant to me. Other times he pretended nothing unusual was happening. He kept me close enough to feel his presence, but hidden enough that no one would question anything. There were days when I wanted to run away. Days when I wanted to confess everything. Days when I felt like I was living two lives that were slowly crushing each other. The wedding date came closer. My guilt grew heavier. My secrets grew darker. I felt myself sinking deeper into something I could not control. I do not know even now if what Bodrick felt for me was love or possessiveness. I do not know if what I felt was love or fear or gratitude. All I know is that my heart was trapped between two men in two different worlds, and the worst part was that I no longer knew who I truly was. This is only the beginning of my story. A story of choices I could not undo. A story of love hidden in shadows while another love waited in the light. When my wedding day finally arrived, I felt like the whole world was spinning too fast for me to breathe. I woke up before the sun rose. My heart was beating so loudly that it felt like it filled the entire room. My mother thought it was excitement. She smiled and hugged me. My cousins danced around the house. Everyone was full of joy, but inside me there was only fear and confusion. I sat in front of the mirror while my aunt fixed my hair. I stared at my reflection. I saw a bride. I saw a woman who should have been happy. I saw a woman who was supposed to marry the man she loved. But deep inside I also saw a woman who had another man in her heart. A man who had become a part of her life in a way she never expected. A man named Bodrick. Now while my aunt pinned the veil on my head, my phone vibrated quietly on the table. I saw his name on the screen. I froze. My aunt said, "You can look at it, Suzanne. Maybe it is from your future husband," but I knew it was not. I opened the message. It said, "Suzanne, please talk to me. I need to see you before you leave for the church." My hands shook so much I almost dropped the phone. I put it down and tried to focus on getting dressed. But my heart kept pulling me toward him. I kept hearing his voice in my mind. I kept remembering how he held my hand when I cried. I kept remembering how he took care of me when I felt alone. I tried to push him out of my thoughts. I told myself, "Suzanne, you made your choice. This is your wedding day. Forget him." But I could not. By the time I finished dressing, my phone had 5 missed calls from him. And then one last message. It said, "Suzanne, please. If you walk away today, I will lose you forever." My hands became cold. My face turned pale. I felt my breath leave my chest. The weight of his words pressed on my heart like a heavy stone. I did not answer. My family took me outside. The cars were ready. The photographers were waiting. Everyone was happy. Everyone expected a perfect day. But inside, I felt like I was walking toward a cliff. As the car moved toward the church, I stared out of the window in silence. My mother thought I was emotional. She held my hand and said, "You are going to have a beautiful future, Suzanne. You are marrying a good man." I nodded, but tears burned behind my eyes. When we arrived at the church, I saw people entering. Flowers everywhere. Music playing softly. Guests smiling. I should have been smiling too. But I felt like a stranger in my own life. Then something unexpected happened. One of the security guards from the bureau walked toward the car and whispered to my uncle. My uncle frowned and then turned to me. "Suzanne, someone is asking to speak to you. He says it is urgent." My heart dropped. I already knew who it was. I stepped out of the car. My dress brushed the ground. My veil floated behind me. My hands shook. The guard led me behind the church to a quiet area where no one else was, and there he stood. Bodrick. He was dressed in a dark suit. His eyes looked tired, worried, almost desperate. When he saw me in my wedding dress, he closed his eyes slowly, like it hurt him to look. He took a step toward me. I took a step back. "Suzanne," he said softly, voice shaking. "This cannot be the end. Not like this." I whispered, "Bodrick, please. I cannot do this here." But he continued, "Suzanne, I know I was wrong to get close to you when you were engaged. I know I should have kept my distance, but I did not. I cared for you. I still care for you. And I cannot pretend this does not matter." I felt tears roll down my cheeks. He came closer, slowly, like he was afraid I might disappear. He looked at me with a pain I had never seen in him before. Susan, if you walk into that church, I will lose you forever. And maybe that is what should happen. Maybe you will be happier. But I needed to tell you that I never wanted to control you. I never wanted to hurt you. I just wanted you to know that you were not alone. I wanted to be the man who protected you, who supported you, who cared for you. Even if it was wrong, I wiped my tears with shaking fingers. Balthasar looked at my wedding dress and whispered, I thought I could accept losing you. But today I realized I cannot. Not without telling you the truth. I love you, Susan. I love you more than I ever expected to love anyone. His voice broke, and for the first time I saw him as a man, not a powerful director. A man who was afraid. A man who was hurting. I felt my heart pull in two different directions inside the church. Someone was waiting for me with hope and love outside the church. Balthasar stood in front of me with pain and longing. I whispered, Balthasar, what do you want me to do? He closed his eyes and breathed deeply. When he opened them, he said, I want you to choose what your heart truly wants. But I am begging you, Susan. Do not choose out of fear. Do not choose because of pressure. Choose because you want it. I felt like the world had stopped moving. Suddenly, my uncle came running from behind the church. He said, Susan, people are asking for you. The ceremony is about to begin. Samuel is waiting. Balthasar looked at me one last time. Not with anger, not with demand, but with a sadness so deep it reached my soul. He whispered, whatever you choose today, Susan, I will never forget you. My uncle held my arm gently and said, come, my child. Everyone is inside. I stood between the two parts of my life. One part filled with certainty, safety, and love. The other filled with mystery, intensity, and a man who had become part of my heart in silence. And then I took a breath and I made my decision. I took a deep breath, wiped my tears, and walked toward the front door of the church. My heart was beating so hard I could feel it in my throat. My uncle held my arm gently, as if he knew I was struggling inside but could not say anything. The doors of the church opened slowly. Everyone stood up. Music began. People smiled. Cameras flashed. Flowers decorated every corner. It looked beautiful. It looked perfect, but inside me, everything felt heavy and confusing. As I walked down the aisle, I did not look back. I tried not to think about the man who was standing outside the church at that very moment. I tried not to think about the conversation we just had. I tried not to feel the pain in my chest. Samuel stood at the front, waiting for me. His face was full of love and happiness. When he saw me, his eyes softened and he whispered, you look beautiful. I forced a smile. I wanted to feel his joy. I wanted to feel the excitement of a bride. But all I could feel was the weight of the choice I had made. Behind the church doors, far away from the eyes of the guests, Balthasar stayed outside. He did not leave. He did not cause trouble. He simply stood in the shadow of a tree, listening quietly to the wedding music drifting through the open windows. No one knew he was there except me. Inside the church, the ceremony began. The pastor spoke with a warm voice. Families watched with pride. Friends whispered happily. Everything looked like a beautiful dream to everyone else, but I kept feeling a strange pull toward the outside. I felt him there. I could almost imagine him standing still, hands in his pockets, heart breaking silently while trying to remain strong. When it was time to say the vows, my voice shook. I felt tears forming again, but I said the words. Samuel held my hands tightly. His eyes were full of hope. He had no idea that another man was quietly listening from the shadows. When we exchanged rings, I felt my heart twist painfully. When we kissed, I felt a sadness inside me that I could not explain. When everyone cheered, I felt like my soul was somewhere else. The celebration was long and loud. Families danced. Photographers followed us everywhere. My friends hugged me. My mother cried with joy. Everything around me looked like happiness, but deep inside me, part of my heart was outside, standing with Balthasar, hurting silently. Later, as the cars drove us away from the church, I looked out of the window and I saw him. He was standing far in the distance, watching the cars leave. He did not move. He did not wave. He just watched, as if he was memorizing the moment before letting me go. That image stayed in my heart like a scar. ####. 2 weeks after the wedding, Samuel and I settled into our new married life. He was kind. He was patient. He loved me deeply. But the part of my heart that belonged to Balthasar never truly disappeared. Every night I thought of the look on Balthasar's face outside the church. Every morning I wondered if he was okay. I tried to push the memories away, but they kept returning like waves. 2 weeks passed. Then one evening my phone rang. I looked at the screen. It was him. My hand trembled. I hesitated, but I answered. His voice was quiet, almost broken. "Susan, I am sorry to call. I know you are married now. I know I should stay away. But I miss you. I miss talking to you. I miss seeing you. I cannot pretend you never mattered to me." My heart tightened painfully. I whispered, "Balthasar, please do not make this harder." But he breathed softly and said, "I only want to see you for a moment. Not to take you from your life. Not to make you choose again. I only want to talk. I want to know you are all right." That is all. I closed my eyes. I knew going to him was dangerous for my emotions, but I also knew that part of me still cared deeply for him. I agreed. We met in the same office where everything between us had begun. When I entered, he was standing by the window, looking out at the city. When he saw me, he turned around slowly. His eyes were full of emotions he could not hide. For a long moment we simply looked at each other, then we talked, and we talked for hours. We talked about life, about the past, about the confusion, about the choices we made, about the pain of letting go, about the memories that still held us together. He listened to my worries. I listened to his regrets. He told me he wanted me to be happy. He told me he would always care for me even from far away. There was no anger in his voice. Only sadness, understanding, and love that had nowhere to go. Time passed without us noticing. 4 hours slipped by silently like a soft rain. There was no shouting. No fighting. No demands, just two hearts trying to find peace after a storm. When it was time for me to leave, Balthasar walked me to the door. He did not hold me back. He did not ask for more. He only said, "Thank you for coming. I needed to hear your voice. Please be happy, Susan." I nodded with tears in my eyes and walked away. When I reached home, Samuel was watching television. He smiled at me like nothing strange had happened. I smiled back, hiding the storm still moving inside me. That night, as I lay beside my husband, I stared at the ceiling in silence. I had chosen my marriage. I had chosen my path. But the connection with Balthasar was something I could not erase, something I had to bury deep inside my heart. A secret that would remain forever between the two of us. After the meeting with Balthasar, my heart became a place of storms. I returned home with a face that looked calm, but my soul felt like the sea, full of strong waves that refused to stop. I could not tell Samuel anything. I could not tell my family. I carried everything alone, like a heavy secret box inside my chest. Samuel, my husband, continued to love me in the simple, honest way he always had. He asked me how my day was. He cooked for us sometimes. He held my hand when we walked in the evenings. He talked about the future, about building a home, about children one day. But I was not the same woman I used to be. At first the changes were small. I became quieter. Sometimes I stared out of the window for too long. Sometimes I forgot to smile. Sometimes I woke up at night thinking of the office where I had spent 4 hours with Balthasar. Samuel began to notice. He asked, "Susan, are you feeling well?" I always replied, "Yes, I am fine. Just tired." He believed me because my lies were soft and gentle. They did not sound like lies. They sounded like a woman who needed rest. But inside, a storm was growing. But Balthasar tries to disappear. After the day we met, Balthasar tried to stay away. He did not call me for a week. He did not text me. He did not ask to see me. He was trying to respect my marriage. He was trying to be strong. He was trying to let go. But I felt his absence like an ache. The silence between us was loud. One night, sitting on the balcony, I whispered to myself, "Why does this still hurt? Why can I not forget?" I had no answer, but the connection refuses to die. 2 weeks later, my phone rang again. It was him. His voice was calm, but I could feel the sadness beneath it. He said, Susan, I am trying to move on. I want you to be happy. But some days it is very hard. I miss your voice. I closed my eyes and felt tears form. I whispered, Balthasar, please do not make this harder. But he replied, this is not about making things harder. It is about telling the truth. Even if the truth has no place in your life anymore. We did not meet that day. We only talked on the phone, but the conversation stayed in my heart like a memory I could not throw away. Samuel begins to sense something one evening during dinner. Samuel looked at me differently. Not angry. Not suspicious. Just worried. He said, Susan, I love you. But I feel like you are far away from me. Your body is here, but your mind is somewhere else. Did I do something wrong? My heart broke at those words. He was a good man. He did not deserve a wife whose heart was divided. I touched his hand and said softly, no, Samuel. It is not you. I am just adjusting to everything. The wedding, the new life, the responsibilities. He nodded slowly, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. He felt the distance even if he did not know the reason. Balthasar returns unexpectedly one afternoon. About a month after my wedding, I was leaving the market with grocery bags. The sun was hot, and I felt tired. When I reached the parking area, I saw a familiar car. Balthasar stepped out. He was dressed simply, not like a powerful man, but like someone who had been thinking too much and sleeping too little. When he saw me, he smiled, but the smile was small and gentle. He said, Susan, I did not expect to see you here. My heart began to run. I whispered, Balthasar, you should not be here. He looked down for a moment, then back at me. I know. But life has a way of putting people in the same place even when they try to stay apart. We stood there for a moment, not speaking. The world around us was loud with cars, voices, and the sound of wind, but between us was a silence full of emotions. He finally said, can I walk with you for a moment? I hesitated, then nodded. We walked slowly to my car. We did not hold hands. We did not touch. But our hearts felt too close. When we reached my car, he looked at me with deep sadness. Susan, I am trying to live without talking to you. But it feels like I am losing a part of myself. I whispered, Balthasar, you know I cannot live two lives. He answered, I know. But I still miss you. We talked for a few minutes, then I left. When I drove away, I looked in the mirror and saw him standing alone in the parking lot, watching my car disappear. That image stayed with me for days. The marriage begins to feel heavy. Time passed slowly. After that, I loved Samuel, but the love was quiet, safe, and calm. My feelings for Balthasar were different. They were loud inside me, even in silence. They were alive even when nothing happened. I tried to hide everything inside, but my marriage began to feel heavier each week. I smiled less. I stared into space more. I found myself thinking of the past even when sitting beside my husband. Samuel asked again, Susan, is something wrong? I shook my head and lied again, but the truth was growing too big to hide. Balthasar calls one last time. After another month, I received a message from Balthasar. It was short. Susan, I will not disturb your life anymore. But please see me one last time. Not as your former boss, not as your secret, but as a man who wants closure. After that, I will let you go. My heart froze. I knew I should not go. I knew it was risky. I knew it could break me, but something inside me whispered, you cannot leave this story unfinished. And so I agreed. We met in a quiet garden near the city. The sun was setting, and the sky was orange and soft. Balthasar was already there, sitting on a bench, waiting for me. When I walked toward him, he stood up. He looked tired. He looked older, but he also looked relieved to see me. We sat together. No one else was around. He said, thank you for coming, Susan. I needed to see you with my own eyes one last time. I nodded. Unable to speak, he continued, you changed my life, even if it was for a short time. I do not regret anything. But I know your future is with your husband. I cannot stand between you and your peace. I am letting you go, not because I want to, but because it is the right thing. Tears filled my eyes. He looked at me gently. You will always be someone I care about. Someone I will never forget. You gave me warmth in a lonely world. For that, I thank you. We talked for hours again, softly, calmly, honestly. When the sky became dark, he stood up. This is goodbye, Susan. He did not try to touch me. He did not try to pull me close. He simply looked at me with the sadness of a man letting go of something precious. I whispered, "Goodbye, Botasa," and he walked away slowly. Without turning back, I drove home with tears falling silently down my face. Someone opened the door when I arrived. He smiled warmly, unaware of the emotional storm inside me that night. I held his hand a little tighter. I whispered, "I am here. I am yours, and I will try to give you all of me from now on." My heart still carried a memory of Botasa, a deep, quiet memory that will stay with me. But I knew the chapter had closed. I knew he had walked away for my sake. Life continued. My marriage slowly became lighter again. I started smiling more. I started feeling present again. But some nights, when the world is quiet, I still remember the man who stood outside my church and the goodbye that changed me forever. Months passed after our final goodbye in the garden. Life slowly began to settle again. Samoa and I learned how to understand each other better. We talked more. We argued sometimes, but we found solutions. We shared meals, plans, dreams, and little moments that made us feel like a real team. But even when things improved, a small part of my heart still remembered Botasa, not in a dangerous way, not in a romantic way, but like a quiet shadow from the past. I thought the chapter was closed forever. I was wrong. One afternoon, while I was cooking dinner, my phone rang. I looked at the screen and felt my breath tighten. It was him, Botasa. I almost dropped the phone. My heart began to race, but I did not answer. I let it ring until it stopped. A minute later, a message arrived. "Susan, I know I said goodbye, but my heart would not let me stay silent. I need to see you. Please." Only for a moment. I locked my phone and continued cooking, but my hands were shaking. Someone entered the kitchen, smiling, and hugged me from behind. He smelled like the sun after work. He smelled like home, and in that moment I knew I could not go back to the past. That night, I lay awake long after Samoa fell asleep. I stared at the ceiling, thinking if I met Botasa again, I would break my heart and my husband's heart too. I could not allow that. The day Botasa came to look for me a few days later, I was leaving my workplace when I saw a familiar figure standing near the gates. Botasa. He looked tired, as if he had not slept well. When our eyes met, he stepped forward slowly, his face filled with hope and sadness. He said softly, "Susan, please, talk to me." I felt my heart squeeze painfully. He was a memory I thought I had buried, now standing in front of me in flesh and blood. I whispered, "Botasa, you should not be here." He shook his head gently. "I needed to see you. I thought I could move on, but I cannot. Not without trying one more time." His voice was shaking, but mine had grown stronger. I said, "No. You cannot come back into my life like this. I am married now. I made my choice. I chose my husband. I choose him in good times and bad times. You must respect that." He stepped closer, his eyes were glassy with emotion. He said, "Susan, I do not want to break your marriage. I only want you to know that I still care. I raised my hand gently to stop him. "Botasa, you cared for me when I was lost. You helped me when I needed strength. You will always be someone important in my memories. But that chapter of my life is over. I cannot live between two worlds. I cannot break my husband's heart. I cannot destroy the life we are building. He looked at me like my words were stones falling on his chest. He closed his eyes, breathed slowly, and nodded. You really will not see me again, he whispered. I swallowed hard and said, no, Bodrick. I cannot. I must choose peace. I must choose my home. I must choose my husband. He looked at me one last time with sadness, but also understanding. Then he turned around and walked away, and this time, he truly did not come back. Choosing my marriage after that day, I felt something shift inside me. I finally felt free, not because Bodrick was gone, but because I had chosen who I truly wanted to be. Not a woman pulled between two lives, not a woman hiding secrets. Not a woman crying in silence. I chose to be a wife who stands by her husband, in good and bad, in sunshine and rain, in confusion and clarity. When I went home, Samuel opened the door with his usual warm smile. He did not know the storm I had faced outside. He did not know how close I had come to falling again. I hugged him tightly, and for the first time since the wedding, I felt whole. I felt present. I felt like I had chosen the right path. I whispered into his shoulder, thank you for loving me. I will do my best to be the woman you deserve. He held me close without asking questions. He loved me simply, honestly, completely, and I began to love him with a new strength, because now my heart was finally free. The advice I want to give to young ladies: my story is not just about love and confusion. It is about choices. It is about weakness and strength. It is about mistakes and lessons. So here is my advice to every young woman: do not let loneliness push you toward the wrong comfort. Sometimes the person who helps you during a difficult moment looks like the answer, but they are only a temporary shelter. Guard your heart carefully. Not everyone deserves a piece of it. Not every attention is love. Not every connection is meant to last. Do not build two lives. The heart cannot live in two places at once. Secrets are heavy. Hidden love is painful. You will lose yourself trying to keep both sides. Choose peace over passion that destroys. Peace will stay. Peace will grow. Peace will make your life soft and steady. If you make a mistake, forgive yourself but learn deeply from it. Do not repeat it. Do not hide from it, grow from it. And most importantly, if you choose marriage, choose it with your whole heart, not half, not divided, not confused. Choose the person who stays with you in the light, not the one who waits for you in the shadows.